get ready to the countdown.
Hey, everybody. You are now experiencing Racine's Our Community, Our Responsibility live broadcast. With me, your host, Monteazul Cuz Semyour Sr. Please prepare to participate. So tonight we have a guest waiting. We're having some technical difficulties getting him connected right now, Cory Prince. As soon as we are able to connect him, we're gonna bring him on live with us. So we are working on it right now. We just didn't want to go and not allow you guys to, or not tell you guys what was going on and make sure you guys have an understanding of what's happening. Cory Prince was with us. We spoke to him briefly, and then he was having some compatibility issues with his software. So he is currently trying to get things situated and fixed so he can get on here and we can discuss his life and his story, and absolutely his thoughts and feelings on how we can improve and change our community. So we know we talked last week and the week before about the purpose and the overview of OCOR Racine, what we're looking to do, what we're looking to build. So until he comes on, I definitely want the floor open for any type of questions or thoughts or comments. You know, feel free to chime in and discuss your feelings and beliefs about Racine as a community, and what we can do to make them better. You know, this is our home. This is our children's home. These are our parents and our sisters and our brothers' homes. We live here. This is our responsibility. So feel free. Otherwise, you know, we can discuss anything that pertains to the betterment of our community. Just as a reminder to all, we are a nonpartisan program. You know, political beliefs are political beliefs. I think that our community transcends any political affiliation. So we really don't care who you voted for or who you're going to vote for. What we do care is what you feel inside would be a good conclusion to building our community. Well, what ideas do you have? Where do you believe we should be directing our attention and our funds and our energy to? This is our community. This is our home. This is our neighborhoods. These are our streets. So I see we do have some viewers live waiting. Again, just as an update, we are waiting for Cory Prince to connect so that we can get him into the stream and a part of the program. We don't know why we're having a software issue between the two of us for the program. He was with us shortly, and I believe he was live on his own page. So we're just waiting on that. I know he's been working hard to get it corrected. So any comments, any questions, please feel free to share them with us. I know I'm simultaneously casting live on my own page through the OCOR format. So we definitely have issues that we can work. Oh, all right. Hey, I think we have Cory Prince in the background there. I can see him on our thing. I'm absolutely excited. So today I have the pleasure of introducing to you my guest, Cory Prince. He's the vice president of the Racine Branch of the NAACP, the state chairman of the NAACP Committee on Criminal Justice. He sits on the board of directors for Big Brothers Big Sisters of Racine, Kenosha, and he's a dedicated community organizer here in our Racine community. Hello, Cory. Hopefully this will work and we can get you in here live.
I hope so, man. I had to Zoom to a different location, but hey, whatever it takes, right?
Right, absolutely, man. It's us against the world, and this is our world.
No doubt,
Um,
no doubt. I
it's
appreciate
an
you having
honor
me.
to have someone. It's an honor to have you on here. Your work in the community is known, um, and we're definitely excited to have someone so set to help build and rebuild our community. So I'm going to hit you today with a few questions, and then after we're done, we can go to an open forum and field questions from the community. So I'm really looking forward to exploring your perspectives on some of the current issues of concern here in Racine. Before we get into that, let's talk a little bit about you and your story. How long have you lived in Racine, and what was it about the NAACP that inspired you to want to work with them?
No doubt. Well, I am a lifelong resident of the city of Racine, proud lifelong resident of the city of Racine. And what made me want to get involved in the NAACP is the fact that it's the oldest civil rights organization in the United States of America. And so when you talk about combating a system, you talk about you talk about either building something to combat that system or joining something to combat that system. And I would hope to think that the oldest and supposed to be the strongest civil rights organization in the United States of America would be the vehicle for that.
Absolutely, absolutely. And the NAACP has a really great record here in Racine and in Wisconsin itself. And we definitely appreciate them pushing forward with all of our civil rights. As a civil rights activist myself, um, I believe without organizations like the NAACP, we can't really appreciate truly our freedoms. Um, and they're there to make sure that and that's an amazing thing. So thank you very much for that. So what is the mission of the Wisconsin NAACP Criminal Justice Committee, and what is your goal as the chairman?
Well, currently the focus under the direction of the new state president, Beverly Hicks, we've been directed to focus strictly on criminal justice reform. And in Wisconsin, what does that look like, right? Because criminal justice reform is a little bit different depending on where you're at. And so right now we have to talk about things that we can touch. And there's a huge push on expungement. As you know, there's bipartisan support on both sides of the aisle for the expungement bill. The NAACP feels that those doors that are opening are a good start. However, being that we are a civil rights organization, we believe that equity needs to apply. And so, if the majority of people of color are convicted for crimes higher than a Class H felony, then the caveat that you cannot have higher than a Class H felony to receive an expungement then works in reverse if you're an African American or a person of color, because you won't be benefited. And we're seeing that on a large scale now at expungement clinics throughout the state. People are getting turned away at record numbers, and it's a good thing because they're becoming aware of the differences, of the disparities. So,
Absolutely. That's like, yeah, you can't expose anything until you can prove something. And that's definitely something that I understand. So what is your goal, and what do you believe your responsibility is as a community organizer here in Racine?
so my goal as an organizer is to educate the people and to lead them in a direction, or to at least give them a direction that they can choose to go, that can better um, our community. That's my job as a community organizer, is to direct resources, to direct information, um, to always agitate, to always incite, to always be present, to always be aware, to always be alert. That's my duty as a community organizer, my duty to my community. So I just hope that I can continue in that work, and continue to grow in that work. As in this work, I'm really a baby, truthfully. So
So specifically, how can Racine community members help you realize the goal that we set out for our community?
well, I'm I'm gonna answer that with a real answer. The real answer is
Okay.
that um, the real answer is that in the city of Racine, there are a lot of community organizations that exist that use the word, and I'm gonna use my air quotes here, community. However, I never see them
Right.
in my community, but they get paid to be in my community. The difference is people like myself, who I'm not a paid organizer. I don't receive 60, $70,000 a year and travel to conferences and trainings every other month.
Yeah.
I don't get that benefit.
Right.
However, I'm in all of the places that the people who get those benefits are not. So when you ask how can the city support me, I would say, and it doesn't have to be me. It doesn't even have to be me. When you say how could the city basically support community organizing, period, I would say hire a real community organizer. There are none. There is nobody that is paid to organize the Black community. There are organizations that are spearheaded by white allies who get paid, and they may hire some people of color. However, they don't really organize the community because they're not from the community. You can't organize the community. You can't come in from outside of the community just because you got paid $70,000 and you're in all the newspapers and you're featured. That doesn't mean that the community is going to accept you. And as you can see, that is
Right.
exactly what's happening, and it's why no organization exists. And so when people say, well, what is the NAACP doing? Why isn't the NAACP? The NAACP is not a paid organization. This is not a
Right.
paid organization. So that's the difference. You know what I'm saying? That's the difference.
Yeah. It's awesome that you mentioned that. So I moved here from Los Angeles as a young teen, and my sisters and my mother, and we moved to Kewanee in Geneva, and that's where I grew up, was corner Kewanee in Geneva, right? And that was something that growing up we noticed. We talked. Everybody had this talk about they were sending people to help, but never did they come to our street, right? When we lived on Hilltop, LaSalle and Hamilton, 12th and Highland. We didn't have any programs there. And when we did have programs, they would take them away and shift the funding to other places. And,
Mm-hmm.
part of this discussion was, how do we build it ourselves? Because that's our neighborhood, right? That's where we come from.
Yeah.
That's, where the people who sound like us, look like us, and live where we live are from. So I appreciate that answer, and I agree.
Can,
We're
can,
not paid.
can I just
OCR.
follow up and hit that real quick, like what you just said, because
Yeah,
a lot of
absolutely.
people
This is,
may be
this
on
is
the
your, this
outside.
is your time, Cory.
I appreciate that. A lot of people who are on the outside looking in, they may not understand what you just said. How we want to create something, and I know a lot of people are saying, like, you just said white people are running this and coming into the community. Well, why don't you create your own? Why don't you do your own? Well, there's a difference. There's this thing called funding, and so I'll give you an example. Let's
Yeah.
use right. So
Right. Yeah.
let's use the NAACP for an example, as an organization, right? How is it even in operation in its small existence, right? In the small existence that it operates, how is it able to operate? It's able to operate off donors, um, particularly the Freedom Fund dinner, which is a huge event that they have every year, garnerates the majority of the revenue annually. And it doesn't
Wow.
consist of paying people. It consists of like literally keeping the lights on in the building, very minuscule things. It's very stringent. And so, when we're talking about that, we're talking about why don't you create something? We have to talk about funding. So you take the NAACP and let's take the city of Racine. Let's take a company, for example. I was trying to think, what's a company in Racine that was nice that went out of business? That was big.
Rain Fair.
Yep.
Do you
Okay.
remember Rain Fair on
Oh yeah.
Memorial, the
Oh yeah.
the, the
Oh yeah.
metal
Oh yeah.
foundry?
Yeah. So let's take that. So let's take Rain Fair. Okay. So like you take Rain Fair. Now let's say Rain Fair is still a huge company, but it's huge, right? It's like Johnson Wax huge. Okay. So now we take Rain Fair, and Rain Fair, just like many other companies in the city of Racine that we know, and we know this to be true because the economic disparity is 39 cents for every dollar for black to white. So we know this to be true. So let's take Rain Fair and put it on the scale of like a Johnson Wax, right? And then we attack Rain Fair and we say, as the NAACP, we come and say your minority hiring percentage is only 2%. 2% of your company is minority hiring, and out of those 2%, 98% of those work directly in the factory making the bare minimum. So you have no one in management position. You have no one in the upper echelon. You have no one on the board. You have no one, in the upper office. You have no one anywhere except for on the line. And so that's what happens. Black people's ceilings get limited. And so when you talk about funding, let's say the organization wants to attack and say, hey, we want to attack your minority hire. Guess what Ray Fair is going to say? The $10,000 that we gave you last year for the Freedom Fund, you'll no longer receive this year. And then now, where does that $10,000 come from? And what happens is over a period of time, the compromise slowly goes away because remember, no one's getting paid. And so now the concern is only about keeping the organization itself alive in the form of like the lights on, a building, a showing, a dinner, an occurrence. But there's no activism, there's no activity. You know what I'm saying? That's not there, and that's not there because no one's paid. And so you're asking people who have lives, who have families, who have jobs, who have homes, who work for government. Mm-hmm. You're asking people in the NAACP who may work for government, who have sons and daughters who may be law enforcement, who may work for the entities that you're asking them to attack. It's a different day and age. You're asking them now to step out and protest and demonstrate and do all of this against their own interests. When Johnson Bank may own the mortgage.
Right.
You see what I'm saying?
What doesn't Johnson Bank own?
And so it's so transcendental back to even pre-Reconstruction. When you talk about like post-slavery days, when you talk about sharecropping and so on, yes, we're free. Yes, we have land, but yes, I rent the land from you. Yes, I rent my tractor from you. Yes, I rent my mule from you. Yes, I rent my horse from you. And yes, if I don't send my daughter out when you knock on my door for her, you're going to take all this away and probably kill me and still take my daughter and my wife. And that is still the black existence. Is just a little bit different. It's just masked differently now. And so when people, I wanted to throw that out there because I always hear the pushback, like, when I say that white people are in control of these organizations, the money is there though. You're just paying the wrong people. That's all. And so for me, it becomes transparent that it's evident that these people are in position to have a job. It's cronyism. It's my friend is the donor, and I'll donate 100,000 for the grant as long as you hire Cory Prince. See, no black donor has $100,000 to donate to the fund to the organization that's hiring the people. So instead, you have $60,000 and $70,000 paid organizers for the community who are organizing in the community, who are not a part of the community and never see the community.
Yeah, that's always been a problem for me. Having an outsider enter into my community or our community and start, telling us what to fix or where to fix it when they haven't spent a single night in the same bedroom that I have. When we're listening to gunshots and screams and police who ignore sometimes, especially growing up. I grew up in Los Angeles. I grew up in Rampart. I grew up East LA, South Central, and I remember when we were children, hearing it and no one responding, and then coming here and seeing similarities to that in our neighborhood. I never, my entire childhood, I lived in those neighborhoods: Quaney, Geneva, Hamilton, and LaSalle, 12th and Highland, 21st and Meade Street. I lived on 21st Meade Street with the Stark family, my foster family, and there would be nothing for us. Nothing for us. So yeah, no, absolutely. So, what problems in Racine are you currently most concerned about for our community?
Well, currently, right now, for me, the most concerning and pressing issue is the killing of Tyrese West. Right now, that is present and pressing on my mind, and it's pressing for several reasons, but one of them in particular is because I was particularly close, being one of the organizers involved in the Dante Shannon situation, and seeing that we talk about things like justice, and justice died on the courthouse steps with the decision of the district attorney. And I think for me, that is a problem, because we're saying that justice in and of itself lies in the hands of the officer who's left alive, and the district attorney who's left to decide if he's telling the truth or not. And I think that, again, the moment, it's no indictment on anyone, because the moment was only missed because, again, people have to go to work. The moment was missed because none of the community organizers who got paid to organize the community saw that this was a monumental need in the community, and used that $70,000 that they get paid, or took those trainings and applied them to seeing what the community needs instead of telling the community what they need. And for me, that's the difference. And so, like, that's the ever pressing issue for me right now. The NAACP, especially Racine and the state conference, have been very vocal. They have been very vocal in the lack of transparency, in the fact that a police department and a municipality can authorize the spending of funds for the purchase of body cameras, and then give officers the discretion on when and where and how to use them. It's asinine to even think that I would give my child a cell phone and say, when I call, you better answer. But then he doesn't answer, and there's no punishment.
Right.
Of course, then he'll just never answer. I mean, that's just silly. So,
Right.
For me,
absolutely.
The thing is, brother, that
Go ahead, bro.
the change right there can only come from legislation, and the only way to apply the pressure on the legislation is a body. You have to have a vehicle. You have to have some type of vehicle to apply that pressure. And again, the NAACP, unfortunately, does not have the resources, because, again, we don't have paid organizer positions. Even though we're the closest to the community, the donors just won't fund us. So.
Right. And so to bring to light your discussion about the Tyree West situation. So there was a push years ago, back in where I grew up in California, to have independent auditors review every single police shooting as it happened, and that way they weren't connected to the department and or the district attorney's office.
Sure.
And make the decision on whether or not charges should be filed, or whether it was a justified shooting, and that they can open it up to be completely transparent. Would that be an idea you would back and be okay with? Or again, I'm never going to give you the answer. I'm always going to just ask a question. But that was something that I had thought about as well. I've lost friends to shootings on both sides, both in the hood and from police officers, and so it's always that. The way we grew up was a little bit different than the way outsiders grew up, right?
Sure.
And I don't speak just as a Racine community member from our neighborhoods, but I mean anybody who grew up in a highly unemployed and the lowest economical income bracket, which is generally where we grew up, and so being poor people coming from poor neighborhoods. We see things differently than others, because they have the slice of the pie that we're looking to eat, right?
Sure.
And we just want to earn that slice of the pie. We just want to be able to get our piece of it. So what would heal our community, black and brown, and our poor community, period? Would that be a goal towards healing the community? Maybe independent auditors who look through our shootings as they happen, so that way we could feel. Because it's hard for people like where we come from to look at a police report or a district attorney's response and say, oh yeah, they have our best interest in mind. You know, that's not the response we get, even when it's justified. Even when they were right in their action, we still have that doubt and
Sure.
that hurt. And that as a Native American, we call it ancestral rage or ancestral pain, right? We feel the pains of our forefathers. We feel the screams of our grandmothers, right? And so when we hear something coming from the perpetrator, whether we're okay with them or not, it's hard for us to hear them with our hearts, right?
Right. Yeah, but when you're talking about healing, 74 days, or 73 days, or 70 something days, you know what I'm saying? That has been since June 15th when Tyrese West was taken from this earth, and with no answers. And when I say no answers, I mean no answers. Just
None.
imagine that, you know what I'm saying? Not just as a community, but like think deeper and imagine that as a parent. You know, imagine that as a grandparent, as a brother or a sister, as a family member with no answers. In truth, and here is the problem. And I want everybody that's listening to please just like close your eyes and imagine this. Just imagine right now being in this instance and having no answers and waiting 74 days only to be told a story that you may not believe in any way, shape, form, or fashion. You may be told a story that is even implausible by the highest stretch of the imagination. You know what I'm saying? Like you may really literally be shoveled a crock, and you what are you left to do? What are you left with? What are your options? What are your choices? What are you left with? When you think about it from that standpoint, I don't understand how it doesn't impel people to act. Because I can't say what I would do, like golly, could you just imagine just every day, no answers. And then all of a sudden on day 75 or maybe day 175, someone's gonna say, after reviewing all of the facts and all of the evidence, it is determined that this is what happened.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to be left with. That is exactly what happened in the situation of Dante Shannon. It is the truth, unfortunately dead. And so until there is concrete proof, until there is some,
Oh, we're losing you there, Cory. You're breaking up really bad.
uh,
Cory, are you there? All right, bear with us, people. It seems like Cory's having a connection issue. We're going to bring him back on. You see, I know he had to change locations to get a signal, and I really wanted to hear the rest of that. So, all right, to recap, so far we've had an amazing discussion with Cory Prince. Cory Prince is the vice president of the Racine chapter of the NAACP. He's the NAACP Committee on Criminal Justice. He also sits on the board of directors for Big Brothers, Big Sisters of Racine and Kenosha, and he's been a dedicated community organizer in Racine for as long as he could. And I don't know why we're okay. So we just lost him. We'll see if he can get back on. We're looking at some of your comments as you guys are going. Wanda had mentioned a community review board. That's definitely something worth talking about. Hold on. I got him back. Hey. All right. We'll figure it out, Cory. Oh, wait. He's still kind of frozen. Let's see if we can connect. Definitely enjoying the discussion. I got him right there. We're definitely enjoying this discussion. He brought to light some very very enlightening facts and ideas. And I hope you guys out there in the community are listening and thinking, and please feel free to comment and question. Cory will receive the questions on his feed, so he can respond directly. So Cory, we talked about those situations. What do you think the first actions? Uh, what are the first actions required to realize your solutions? I mean, you've definitely given us some stuff to think about and to discuss. How do we achieve those goals? Ooh, and we're losing him again. There he is. Did you hear what I had asked, or I can repeat it? It's no problem, bro.
No, go ahead. I didn't hear it.
Okay, so after the discussion we had, and it's been an amazing discussion. I'm really glad you were our very first guest on the show, and we hope to have you again uh, after as well. What do you think some of the solutions are to make these actions, happen?
Well, I think that so for me, the biggest solution lies in the hands of allies. Um, and I always have this conversation. I'm sure some people have heard it before. You know, the truth of the matter is that it takes relationships. They say it's not what you know, it's who you know. And I know that if my mother had the power to change someone's life, and I felt that way, I couldn't live in the house with my mother without telling her that on a daily. You know, um, if I know that my friend or my uncle or acquaintance or somebody that I know or however whoever owns a company that employs 2% African American in a city that has 20% African American population, um,
Right.
and it is a Fortune 500 company, and it's a company that is considered a company that is prestigious in the city, and a company that is paying people on average $50,000 and $60,000. If you think about a community who averages $24,000 for a family of three, I'm sure if we change that mentality, if we change that income to a $50,000 income, we could change the mentality to a $50,000 mentality, because everything then is going to change. Then I'm vested in my community because I'm going to want to do things now. I have more money. I want to become a homeowner. I have a stable job. I don't have to work two jobs just to make $24,000 a year. So now I'm going to be vested in my child's education. I'm going to be able to go to peer teacher conferences and participate in his development and be there for homework assistance when he, things like that normal people enjoy. The American dream, right? But
Right.
instead, certain people are forced to work for menial wage, and what happens is they have to then work one and two jobs. So the solution for me would be the challenge to allies, man. Talk to the people who who are in positions to employ people. Talk to community organizations that you support. Talk to organizations that you fund and say, what are you really doing in this community specifically? Because the word community can mean things relevant to the person that's saying the word. So, let's talk about what community are we talking about? Are we talking about the Black community? Let's be specific. Because if you're talking about the Black community, then I need to know who's organizing there so I can link with them. I need to know. I need to know what organization, who's organizing in the African American community. I can be even more specific, um, and say in automatic districts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8, who's organizing there. And the way that I know what I'm saying is an effective solution is because of our program with the voting. As a Democratic Party, the paid canvas director for the Democratic Party, we developed a strategy in automatic districts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8, which had the lowest voter turnout in the 2016 presidential election, and we increased voter turnout to have record voter turnout for a midterm election in those 5 automatic districts. And we did it with relational voter experience, where we had 22 people of color that we paid to be canvassers. And we educated them on the issues. We educated them on the candidates. We educated them so that they could have real conversations with people in their community who were uneducated. And that's what's lacking. And what that produced was, it produced a level of excitement in people because they really knew what they were actually going to vote for. They really knew what they were voting. They really knew the reason. And not only that, they actually saw a vested interest in their community with 22 people who were paid to do the work. So,
Awesome.
hey,
Absolutely.
hey, brother, listen, we saw those results. We saw those results. We saw those results.
We did.
And again, I have to state this because I don't know who's watching. So again, Cory Prince was actually the paid canvas director for the Democratic Party of Wisconsin during the midterm elections. And he did. You can actually go on the cityofracine.org website and see that record voter turnout was produced in automatic districts 1, 2, 3, 4, and 8. But yet and still, with the 2020 Democratic Convention coming here, yet and still, with a new Wisconsin Democratic Party chairman, yet and still, I'm not a paid organizer for the Democratic Party or anywhere else for that matter.
Right. Right. And that's funny. And that's something that should be bipartisan all the way around. Both parties should support voters coming out and having their voices heard.
Sure.
When we first started talking about doing this, um, the term "voice of the voiceless," poor communities have been voiceless since the United States began. Right. So we're Native American. Native American, Mexican. We're Apache. My family's mixed. So we're a mixture of Native American, Mexican, Black, and white in our family. And poor people have always been the voices, right? So we get this chance to vote, right, and have our voices be heard. And so for me, I've always been a huge supporter of getting out and getting that vote in, making sure our communities are being heard by our votes, because that's all anybody hears is who we elect. Redistricting of lines can definitely influence how much we can influence the vote. But thank you for that work. And it's not paid, and it sucks because it should be. We should be compensated for our time and for our efforts, our work, but we will be compensated through our work by bettering our community. And sometimes that's what I have to accept, that sometimes my pay will come in a kind deed done in our neighborhood.
Sure.
That's love right there. So we're gonna go ahead and ask our viewers to shoot us some comments and questions, and have an open forum here for a little while, and that way, they can get their voice heard as well. And Cory, again, thank you for coming on, man. I appreciate it. After all the stuff in the beginning to get you even to connect, and with our software mishaps, man, I was afraid that we weren't going to be able to have this discussion today. And I definitely appreciate your work and this discussion. Big Brothers Big Sisters is an amazing program, and we spoke very little bit about that. But those programs are for our neighborhoods. It's our children and our brothers and sisters who go, who, if they're lucky enough, get to become members of Big Brothers and Big Sisters when we're missing parents in the home. So thank you for that, man. I appreciate that, and we're very grateful as a community for that.
Yeah, so. and I must say, I appreciate the shout out. Again, I'm also a special advisor to Youth Empowered in the Struggle. Shout out to Aaron Ike and Al Levy for giving me an opportunity to work with an amazing group of kids and learn from those guys and their organization and partner and collaborate and support each other. And shout out to Raven and Our Youth Their Future. Just for the opportunity and the experience that you gave me. And thank you too for anybody that's listening, the viewers, and to you all, to this page and this fine site right here, man, for having me on and having a real conversation, because that's what it's all about. It's about real conversations. Hopefully somebody will hear it and it'll touch somebody and move somebody to act in a way that they should. So,
you know, they say that's the purpose of community activism. It's not really to change our life, it's to change the lives of all those around us, right? We can change the world if we stand together. You know, and party lines and all that stuff never really meant anything to me when we were starving and cold and, you know, had bad clothes and, you know, just wondering where we were going to eat next. You know, I didn't care if somebody was Republican or Democrat. I just wanted someone to care. And I think we forget that in the United States a lot lately, that, you know, for those of those children who are in those positions that we were as children, they just want someone to care. I mean, it's as simple as that. Care, put in that effort, put in that work, and our neighborhoods, we need a little bit more. You know what I mean? It's our jobs. You know, as a man who spent his time away, when I came home, my feeling was that you know, I had to give. So CJ Rouse sent in a comment. With the success of Knapp Elementary, what pressure can we put on RUSD to expand that holistic approach to schools, teaming with community resources and addressing mental health as well as other needs? Brenda Petty said, united we stand, united we fall. You're right, Brenda. Absolutely. Thank you. So, Cory, CJ had mentioned the changes at Knapp School and what kind of pressure we can put on RUSD to expand that.
Well, I think that when you talk about pressure on RUSD, you're talking about a school board, and you're talking about a school board that's elected, and you're talking about a school board that's elected with unfair maps. And so then you have to talk about what does that school board look like. And when you talk about, you know, the makeup of that school board, then it becomes a much more difficult task when you talk about how to apply that pressure. I think that a much easier route would be, how do we soften Dr. Gallion into seeing whatever it is that you think we need to see? And I don't even think it's a soften Dr. Gallion. I shouldn't say that. I should say, how do we support Dr. Gallion? Because for me, I'm gonna look at Dr. Gallion's position different than other people. Dr. Gallion, as a black man in a leadership position that has to answer to a white board, at the end of the day, his livelihood is determined by the board. And if Dr. Gallion does not have the support of the community, then Dr. Gallion will not have the fortitude to stand up to the board. So a lot of times we look at things in reverse, and you know, we're looking at him as a get along and go along, and that may be true, but I would kind of get along too if nobody had my back. So, you know, maybe if he knew that if he stood out and if he was to step out, maybe if he knew that if he was to step out and support some of the things that community members want him to support, maybe if he knew that the support would be there. Because I've been at a lot of school board meetings, and when I'm talking about community support, I'm talking about the black community in particular. You know, if I'm sure if it was filled with black faces in the school board meetings, the meeting would be different. It would take on a different tone. So, you know.
Yeah. So, you know, we're having our next guest is going to be Angelina Cruz. She's the union steward for the Racine Unified School District. And she's one of my favorite human beings. She's my cousin, and she's an amazing activist. So maybe we'll talk, and if you have the time, maybe we can bring you on with her during our discussion. I mean, if you're interested, we'll go forward with that, and we'll talk off camera about that. But yeah, you're right. You know, it'd be nice if our officials and others knew that they had the backing of our communities to go with it. So Wanda had mentioned, is voter registration and education going to be continued, workers being paid? I'm not sure.
She said, is it?
Is it? Yeah. Is voter registration and education going to be contingent on workers being paid?
So I can only speak for me personally. I have worked with Turn Up the Vote Racine um, in a non-paid capacity for a few years, and it's just something that I choose to do. You know, I did it without getting paid, but I could be honest and say it did land me into getting paid. It wasn't my intention. I really was just doing something because I saw a need. But um, you know, if that's what you're looking for, Wanda, let me know, and I can definitely look into those avenues, because there should be people who are paying people right now to register folks to vote for 2020. There definitely should be. Hopefully, they won't do like they've done in the past and drop an influx of volunteers in the community and say, "Don't you want to vote? I know you want to vote because we got to get rid of Trump." You know, and black people are saying, "Shit, I've been living the past 4 years with Trump, and I'm still alive. I'm still okay. So, do whatever you want to do."
Kurt Becker commented, "Vote for change." We've known Kurt for my entire time here, and he's definitely an advocate for community change and growth. So he's an amazing guy. Thanks, Kurt. The discussion of building and paying our own and structuring ourselves and growing our communities has been an issue since the 70s. My parents were part of the civil rights movement, both my mother and my father, and so I grew up with two parents who were strong on question authority, never follow blindly, always make sure that the step you're going to take is the step you need to take. And one of the big things was my mother was a part of the organizing of the farm workers in California, and unionizing the field pickers. Um, and so when I look at our neighborhoods, I question whether or not something similar, whether it be voting pacts or coalition parties within our neighborhoods, that would be able to levy a little bit more of leverage against our elected officials, in the sense of when you have a pack of 5,000 voters who are members of this organization, and you can swing their vote with one decision. Um, would that be more beneficial for our communities or not? And then how do we get our communities who historically, brown and black communities have historically not been huge voter turnouts. In fact, for years and years and years, they've ignored us, including with their ads and their, they don't tailor them to us. Um, does that seem like something that would help our communities? And how do we get our communities to turn out to that? How do we get them to come together and say, all right, we're going to promise to vote now. We're a member of this pack, and we're going to take this forward from here. Do you have any ideas on that? Or?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I think for me, it's dialed back to candidates. Um, I think that the problem is, like, I had these conversations all the time where people's like, voting doesn't work. Why vote? Voting doesn't work. Look what happens. They get in office. We never hear from them. They don't do anything, blah, blah, blah. And it's not the process of voting that doesn't work. It's who we're voting for that's not working. Because I'm confident that if I voted you in office, you will be accountable and present and and active and outspoken, and I would believe that I would be confident, and I would believe that also we could rally people around the fact that not only am I co-signing that I'm confident in that fact, but also people would know you from Hamilton and Geneva and from Blake and from you see what I'm saying? And so now it becomes easy to rally those people around you because they saying, "Oh, that's fam." And then Angelina would be able to rally other type of people also, because she would say, "That's my cousin," and her co-signment would mean more to the community than anybody ever taking Tony Evers to a church.
Right.
I hope that hit somebody real hard in the head. So, right there,
Yeah.
what I'm saying is that what's not working is just the fact that we're not raising up the right candidates. Um, and part of that too is about the support, because I have to tell you that you're going to be crucified. Someone's going to rip your life apart. They're going to demean you. They're going to demoralize you. You know what I'm saying? They're going to pick apart your finances and your personal life, and you still may not even have the support. I can't even still guarantee that your own people will come out for you. So that's hard, because most of the time, the people who are able to, here's the thing. Watch this. A lot of times, people outside the community will say things like, well, they're a person of color. Well, that doesn't mean that they're a person of the community. It's a huge difference. It could be someone that lives right in the inner community, but they're still not a part of the community because they only own a home there. They just put their key in the lock and they go in the door and they close it. And so that's not the community. They just drive through it. That's
Right.
it. And so it's a difference in when you're entrenched in the community, when you're a part of the community loves you and they understand you and they respect you. And they you have that validation because they respect you. And so, like, that's the difference in, like, the people who we don't even know coming in saying, you need me because this is going on and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this and I'm going to do this. And we're saying in our head, we heard it all before, but we're also saying, well, what's the alternative? And so you
Right.
get a vote, it's cheap. We don't want to give it to you. So, there's a lot of people who can rationalize not voting. It's a lot of people who don't have that attachment. Me, I feel that it's a duty because someone lost their life for that right. And so I think that for that reason alone, I need to honor that. But in and of itself, do I like voting for people who I don't feel like have my best interest, or say they have my best interest but won't be present and won't stand on it? No, it hurts me to my core. It really does. It hurts me to my core. And I wish that there was a way that something existed that we could apply pressure to those people who pander for our votes and take them and give us absolutely nothing.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. And it's funny that you had said that the people are going to come out of the woodwork to dissect you and for no reason whatsoever. After our first live broadcast coming from Wisconsin Dells, I got a random message and said, "Hey, you from OCOR Racine, you're fat and ugly." There was nothing else about it. And I was like, you know what? I'm okay with that.
Right.
I don't need to be pretty. I got a girl, I got kids, I'm happy, and I know I'm a little fat, but definitely anything to distract us from the goal is what some people are settled on. If they can shy us away and placate and keep us in place, then growth can happen. I agree. Uh, you know, uh, Sammy Rango commented on here. I don't know if you've seen our background of me and another gentleman standing in front of a wall with the painting. That was a mural I did for a program I'm involved with called Formers Anonymous. And Sammy coined a phrase in our program early about iron sharpening iron, and that's what we do. We strengthen each other, and our tribulations, our trials,
That ain't
our
y'all
struggles.
saying, man.
That all.
That's a saying out the Bible, man.
Well, I never heard it before, so I'm not a biblical man. I'm definitely an Apache.
It's actually iron sharpens iron, so as it sharpens the countenance of a man one to another.
Oh, well, so there you go. So hey, he was quoting scripture for me. But he's true. It's truth. Yeah, and it's truth. We sharpen each other, we strengthen each other. As long as we stand together and we continue to work together, we grow together. There's no way to fail in that. Kurt Becker commented, if we want people to vote, everyone loves free food. Let's have a huge barbecue. I'm down with that. I think that's a great idea. I'm fat again, like my viewer pointed out. I'm kind of a large man, So I'm down with eating. Is that type of idea something we should think about throwing a large get together so that we can gather? Traditionally, poor people do come together mostly when it comes to food and strength. So throw a party downtown at the lake, get some good food out there, some tamales and some whatever we can make, and have something to organize ourselves. I mean, anything that will bring out our voters in our district.
It's actually a great idea, and as the community liaison for Randy Bryce for Congress, we actually did hold a community barbecue at the John Bryan Center that had over 300 people there, catered by the Meat Man, Melvin Bumpus.
Yeah.
We had DJ Fresh on the ones and twos.
Okay.
We had Yogi's Pudding. Had over 300 puddings we gave away. All of that. But at the same time, that was because Randy Bryce was a candidate that had the stamp of the people. The people could go on Randy Bryce's Facebook and see that he was demonstrating in 2010 and getting arrested in the state capitol in 2011 and got arrested in the city of Racine in 2017, laid down in the street. You know what I'm saying? And so like the people could already see that and say, whoa, I rock with him. They saw the video of Randy Bryce with his true testimony and his true story about him being a cancer survivor and coming back and not having health insurance. And yeah, he missed some child support payments. And he wasn't afraid to say that. And so people could relate to that because it was an everyday thing. And so like while the media thought that they were slandering him to the community, they may have been to their community. But to our community, it endeared us to Randy Bryce because it made him a regular and everyday ordinary person. And to see him eating rib tips, licking barbecue sauce off his fingers only made us fall in love with him even more. So yeah, I think that that's a great idea to whoever suggested it. But I think that where we have to be careful, again, is the candidate, because we could have a barbecue for Donald Trump, and people gonna come out and they're gonna eat rib tips. You know what I'm saying? But that ain't who we want them to vote for. So it's all about the candidates, man. And so we can raise up strong candidates. And I think that part of that is we have to flip some things in the House and the Senate, and because then we can pass laws that are on the books, such as laws that say convicted felons cannot serve for public office in the state of Wisconsin. And I'm a firm believer that the people that are closest to the problem are also closest to the solution. Again, we're asking people who have never been employed how to solve unemployment. We're asking people who've never been convicted of a felony how to solve crime and how to reduce recidivism. We're asking people who are not from the community how to organize the community. Like, all of these things are asinine in and of itself, but it just shows you, if you really think about it and scale it back, it shows you that all these positions exist to pay people who don't look like us, who aren't us. So sorry.
Man, I appreciate your time. I appreciate your discussion. Um, I am overjoyed at how our first guest conversation went. And I just want to say thank you, Cory, for your work in our community, and thank you for your time tonight. Without all of us participating, we're never going to go anywhere.
No doubt, man. Thank you for reaching out to me again. Thank you to everybody that tuned in. Great page, man. I hope you guys continue to do the work, man. We can continue to collab. Anybody that's interested, there is a criminal justice meeting this Saturday, August 31st, 1 o'clock p.m. at the George Ray Community Center, 924 Center Street. Once again, thank you.
Hey, shoot a plug for, and yeah, absolutely. Thank you for plugging the community justice meeting this Saturday. If there's anything else you want to put out there right now, feel free to do it. This is your time. If not, we'll sign off. But definitely, if you have anything else you'd like to headlight right now, please do.
Absolutely. I'm always rocking with my main man, Carl Fields, who is the organizer for Expo, which is ex-incarcerated people organizing. They meet every first Thursday, which, if I'm not mistaken, is next Thursday at 6 o'clock, at 6:30 p.m. at the RIC office. It is on DeKalb Avenue, right by DeKalb and Taylor. I'm not sure of the address, but you can Google it. It's the Racine Interfaith Coalition headquarters. It's next to the Habitat for Humanity. But they're doing amazing work right now. They're working on the Unlock the Vote campaign, which is restoring the right for people convicted of felonies who are on probation or parole to vote, which is currently illegal. Actually, it's currently a felony in the state of Wisconsin. So
Yep.
it's a huge thing, man. And we want to make sure that we support them. So if you can come out, please do.
All right. Thank you so much, Cory, for being a part of our discussion today. And we look forward to a long relationship with you.
No doubt, man. Thanks again.
All right, brother. We'll talk to you soon. All right. So I was very happy with today. I'm glad we finally were able to go ahead and get Cory on camera and get the machine working here. We appreciate all of you coming in to listen today. It's been a wonderful first hour for us. So this is Monteazul Cuz Semyour Senior signing out of the platform that gives a voice to the voiceless. That's us. We're in hot pursuit of community solutions and action. So please join us next time to be a part of change. And next time will be next Thursday night at 6 p.m. And we'll be joined by Angelina Cruz, the Racine Unified School District Teachers Association Union Steward. And so again, thank you to Cory Prince for his thoughts and his process and his discussion. And thank you for all of you who chipped in. Yeah, you, Kirk, Wanda, everyone, Brenda, CJ, thank you for the great questions. Shirley, for watching. Sammy, we appreciate all the work you do in our community, brother. That'll be another one of our future guests, Sammy Rangel from Formers Anonymous, the founder. An amazing human being, and we're very grateful for his input as well. So thank you guys very much. We hope you have a wonderful night and a wonderful week, and we'll see you again in 7 days. So good night, everybody.